Hello, Alex Smith here again. Thought I'd talk to you about a recent upgrade that I did and why it's a good idea for me. There's a craze at the moment whereby you put on a 1140 or bigger 1142 cassette on your bike. Why would you do this? Now, there's lots of cries from some people that this is cheating. To understand that, you need to look at what sort of riding you want to do and what you want out of a larger cassette. Now, my previous cassette option was a 1230, which is plenty good enough for most roads and most hills. It'll get you there. So why did I go for the bigger one? My bike is designed for doing sportives and that sort of thing, so long distance, and that's why I have a slightly larger cassette of the 1230. But I've started doing audaxes, and that's a longer distance again. Now, what I found when I was doing my first audax was that towards the last hour, pretty much I was done. Energy gone, get off and push up the hills and that sort of thing. And one of the reasons for that is that you're putting power in up the hills, which is fine. Most rider can do that. But as soon as you start putting on 100 miles plus, it gets a bit much. So the idea of a larger cassette is to actually help me even out. I'm still using the same power, I'm spinning faster to get up the hills, but it's not knackering the legs, and that's the main thing. So that was my reasoning. And it's actually quite a good reasoning. Back in the day, when you had rally 10 speeds and that sort of thing, you had two sorts of bikes. You had the race bike, which was drop down and go for it, and those would use a compact setup at the front. So your 10 speed is 2 at the front and 5 at the back. And then you would have touring bikes, and I've got one of those as well. I used it as a commuter, and that had a triple up front, and in this case it had a 7 at the back. What that means is, using the granny cog, you can load your bike up with all sorts of everything like camping gear and what have you, and it'll get you up the hills because you've got the granny cog. Now, with modern compacts, everybody's sort of like, oh, we need to race and do this sort of thing. But then you've got the problem is, if you're doing long distances or anything like that, and you've got a reasonable amount of kit on because you're doing long distances and you need to take it with you, those hills problem become a problem yet again. So, went out on a club ride. First sort of go out in anger with the 1140 cassette. And there were some pretty good hills on there, I decided to do all the big hills. So what are my thoughts? It's not that much different really, except when you're on the bigger hills, you notice that you can spin harder. You're not having to power down on the pedals all the time to get up. So it's doing what I want it to. It's not suddenly going to make me a better rider. I'm not going to go faster, although the 11, moving from the 12 to 11 is quite, means I can put some more power down when I want to. What it means is that I'm smoother going up hills, and that's it. I'm not faster, more whatever. But smoother going up hills, I'm not faster going up hills, I'm just smoother, means that I can spread my power out over longer distances, and that's my reasoning for it. Other than that, the only thing I will say is that you can't cross chain as easily. On the last one, it was quite forgiving. You could have it on the top cog at the front and the small cog at the back, and it would make a bit of a noise, but that was it. Quite forgiving. On this one, if you try that, it sort of like clunks up and it stops working. You just sort of like try reversing backwards and then, no, not having it. So in effect, it forces you to be better on your gear management, because you go so far and then you have to drop down into the lower cog on the front. So it forces you to discipline your gears, and that's not a bad thing either. Anyway, if you've had, if you've fitted a larger cog using the wolf tooth or whatever, drop us a line, let us know how you found with it. But overall, yeah, it's going to work for me.